I found out my sister sold my building from an email that said sold in the subject line. Not pending, not notice of hearing, not even urgent action required. Just sold in all caps, like the county was congratulating somebody. I was standing in my kitchen barefoot halfway through my first coffee, still wearing the oversized gray t-shirt I slept in, when my phone buzzed across the counter. I almost ignored it. The sender looked official, but boring. County Tax Enforcement Portal. The kind of automated notice most people swipe away because it sounds like spam until it ruins their month. I opened it anyway. Property status update. Parcel reference. Public auction completed. Winning bid accepted. For a few seconds, I genuinely thought it had to be some clerical error tied to another address. And I own one commercial building on Mercer Street. A 3-story brick property with 2 retail units downstairs and 4 apartments above. I bought it 6 years earlier after cashing out my consulting firm and taking a risk everyone in my family called reckless. The building was old, ugly in places, and needed everything. Roof work, wiring, plumbing, facade repairs. But it was mine. Free and clear, except for a small rehab line I had paid down aggressively. And now my phone was telling me it had been sold. I set the mug down so fast coffee hit the counter. Then I opened the attachment. Auction number, parcel number, legal description, mine. Every line was mine. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grip the edge of the sink. At the bottom of the notice was the sale time, 9:40 a.m. I checked the clock on the microwave, 9:53. And the auction had ended 13 minutes earlier. I called the county contact listed in the footer. Busy signal. Called again. Queue message. Called the treasurer's office. Transfer. Disconnected. Called back and finally got a woman in collections who asked for the parcel number twice, went quiet, then said, "Yes, ma'am. That parcel shows completed disposition through today's tax enforcement auction." "Completed how?" I asked. "Winning bid accepted. There's no delinquency on that property." "I can only see status from my side." "Then tell me what status you can see." Keyboard sounds. A pause. Then, "It shows petitioned under administrative authority 3 weeks ago." My throat tightened. "By who?" "Ma'am, I'm not authorized to read petitioner identity over general line." That was when I knew this wasn't just a county mistake. Someone had put the building into the pipeline on purpose. I hung up and called my property manager, Lenora, straight to voicemail. I called the contractor who had been on site the day before replacing rear stair railings. He picked up on the second ring. "Morning, Miss Hale. Was anyone at Mercer Street yesterday with papers? Sheriff, posting crew, court notice, anything?" He hesitated. "There was a woman there around lunch, blonde, sunglasses. Said she was your representative and asked if the tenants had been told about the sale." Sale. I shut my eyes. "Did you get her name?" "No, ma'am, but she acted like she belonged." My sister Audrey had built her whole life on that trick. She walked into rooms like ownership was just a tone of voice people rewarded. I was already in jeans by the time I called her. She answered on the 4th ring, a calm as ever. "Good morning." "Did you touch my building?" Silence for half a beat. Then she laughed softly. "So you finally check your email." That feeling people describe as seeing red? Mine was colder. Like all the blood in my body had turned into something sharp. "What did you do?" "You're being dramatic," she said. "The property was distressed. The filing window was open and someone had to act before you buried yourself." "Buried myself?" I said. "There are no tax arrears on that building." "You should really read what you sign." I stopped moving. "What did I sign?" Another soft laugh. Not loud, not cruel on the surface. Audrey never wasted energy being openly monstrous if she could sound reasonable instead. That's the problem with you, Nora. You always think loving a thing makes you qualified to manage it. 9 minutes ago, the county told me my $800,000 building was sold, I said. So I'm going to ask you one time, what did you file? She exhaled like I was tiring her. If you want to discuss family assets, come to the courthouse steps. We're finalizing paperwork now. We? But she had already hung up. I left the coffee on the counter, grabbed my folder safe from the hall closet, and was in my car in under 2 minutes. The folder held exactly what I prayed I wouldn't need: deed copy, tax receipts, insurance declarations, LLC operating agreement, mortgage release, contractor affidavits, and 6 months of bank statements showing every tax payment clearing on time. At a red light, I pulled up the county tax portal on my phone and logged into the property dashboard. That was when the second shock hit. The mailing address on the enforcement petition wasn't mine. It wasn't even close. Someone had changed the contact address for legal notices to a P.O. box in North Ridge, a town 40 minutes away where I had never lived, worked, or received mail in my life. There was also a contact email listed for Authorized Property Administrator. Not my email, Audrey's. She had rerouted the notices. That was why I hadn't seen the petition, not because the county never sent anything, because my sister made sure they sent it to her. By the time I reached downtown, my hands were steady again, not calm, steady. There's a difference. Calm is when danger has passed. Steady is when your body realizes panic would only waste time. And the courthouse steps were crowded the way they always are after auction calendar. Investors folding papers into briefcases, clerks carrying boxes, bidders checking phones, a couple of deputies standing near the rail as if they had seen every ugly thing money could do to families and were no longer interested in being surprised. Audrey was halfway up the stairs, cream coat, dark sunglasses pushed up into her hair, one heel planted higher than the other, like she was posing for a lifestyle photo instead of standing on the bones of a theft. Beside her was a man from some title company, flipping through closing papers. And in Audrey's hand, of course, was my building file. Or enough of it to fake one. When she saw me, she smiled. Actually, smiled. "There you are," she said. "I was wondering if you were going to make me do all of this alone." I climbed the steps so fast a deputy watched me, but I stopped short before giving him a reason to intervene. "You rerouted my notices," I said. "You changed the legal contact on my property." Audrey tipped her head. "I corrected the contact trail on a neglected asset. It isn't neglected. You're months behind on reality, Nora." I pulled the printed tax receipts from my folder and shoved them toward the title rep. Every county tax payment is current. Every one. This sale is void. The man glanced at Audrey first. That told me everything. He had not come here expecting me. He had come here expecting the sister who spoke first. Audrey folded her arms. "The auction is already complete." "No," I said. "A portal status doesn't override title fraud." She opened her mouth to say something polished and poisonous, but before she could, a black SUV rolled up hard against the curb. One man got out. Mid-40s, dark overcoat, no visible rush in him at all. That was the thing that changed the air. Everyone else on those steps moved like money was about to leave without them. He moved like time belonged to him. He came straight toward us. The title rep stiffened. Audrey turned, annoyed at first, then uncertain. The man stopped 3 feet from her, reached inside his coat, and flipped open a badge. FBI. Then he looked from Audrey to the closing papers in her hand and asked, in a voice so level it cut through the entire staircase, "Who authorized this sale?" No one answered him. Not Audrey. Not the title rep. Not me. What the courthouse steps had gone strangely quiet. That particular kind of public silence that happens when a private scam suddenly realizes it has wandered into federal air. The man kept the badge up for exactly 1 more second, then closed it and slipped it back inside his coat. "Special Agent Colin Reese," he said. "Financial Crimes Task Force." The title rep swallowed so hard I could see it in his throat. Audrey recovered first. She always did. "I'm sorry," she said, smooth as glass, "but this is a family property dispute. I'm the acting administrator." Agent Reese looked at her the way surgeons look at bad scans. "Of what?" "My sister's building." "That isn't a legal role," he said. Audrey smiled anyway. Or no, it is when the owner has failed to maintain statutory obligations. I opened my folder and pulled out the deed copy so fast the paper snapped. I am the owner. Taxes are current. Notices were rerouted without authorization. She changed the contact address. Reese took the deed from me first, not from Audrey. That mattered. He scanned the parcel number, the ownership line, then asked, "You're Nora Hale?" "Yes." He turned to the title rep. "And you were about to close an auction disposition on a parcel owned by a woman standing here with current tax receipts in her hand." The rep licked his lips. "We were relying on county auction status and petitioner representations." "Whose representations?" No one spoke. Reese looked at the deputy standing near the rail. "When I need these parties held in place for document review." That deputy didn't argue. He just stepped closer. Audrey's tone sharpened. "You cannot detain me over a civil misunderstanding." Reese looked at her. "Then clear it up." He held out his hand. "Show me the authority you use to change the legal contact, petition the parcel, and move this property into auction." Audrey passed him a file from her coat with a little too much confidence. That was her mistake. Innocent people hand things over hoping they help. Audrey handed papers over like she still believed the right stationery could bully its way through facts. Reese opened the file and read in silence. I watched his eyes stop on one page, then go back. "What is this?" he asked. Audrey didn't blink. "The Emergency Asset Administration filing." "For what emergency?" "The property was in distress." I said, "No, it wasn't." Reese ignored both of us and kept reading. Then he pulled one page free and held it up between two fingers. "This affidavit says the owner delegated administrative authority to Audrey Hale 8 months ago." I stared at the signature line. It had my name on it, and it was as fake as the first breath I took after opening that sold email. "That is not my signature," I said. Audrey sighed like I was embarrassing her. "You signed a stack of refinancing and repair documents last year. Maybe you don't remember every page." I took one step toward her. "I remember not giving you my building." The deputy shifted slightly, warning us both with posture alone. Reese flipped to the notary line. Then he got very still. I had seen that look once before, years earlier, when my own attorney found a forged lien release buried in a closing packet and stopped smiling halfway through a sentence. Reese turned the page toward the title rep. "You notice this?" The rep looked, then immediately wished he hadn't. The notary commission number was printed at the bottom. Expired. Expired by more than a year. Audrey's face changed. Not much, but enough. Reese didn't raise his voice. "You brought an expired notary affidavit to a county auction closing and expected title to move on it?" "It was an old form," Audrey said quickly, "but the authority itself is real." "No," I said, "it isn't." He looked at me. "Did you ever appoint her to manage this parcel?" "No." "Did you authorize an address change to a Northridge P.O.? A box?" "No." "Did you authorize auction petitioning?" "No." He nodded once, then pulled a second sheet from Audrey's file. This one had county portal screenshots attached to it. Contact update. Notice rewrote. Administrative filer request. Under requester email was an address I knew instantly, not Audrey's personal one. A business email from a Shell LLC she'd used before when she tried to broker 2 short-term rentals she did not own and nearly got herself sued. Reese saw my expression. "You know this entity?" "Yes," I said. "It's hers." Audrey snapped, "It is a management vehicle." Reese finally looked at her long enough for the mask to slip. "No," he said. "It's one of 3 entities we've been tracing through distressed property petitions, fraudulent contact changes, and auction interference across 2 counties." The air left my lungs, and the title rep actually took a step back. Audrey laughed once, too sharp. "That is absurd." "Is it?" Reese asked. He reached into his coat again. Not for the badge this time, but for a folded packet clipped with a yellow evidence tab. He opened it and placed the first page on top of Audrey's own file. Same Shell LLC. Same office box in North Ridge. Same formatting on contact change requests. 3 other parcels. 2 elderly owners. 1 deceased owner whose heirs were never notified. My hands went cold. This was bigger than my building. Much bigger. Audrey saw it too. I want a lawyer. Reese nodded. That's the first smart thing you've said. The title rep whispered, Agent Reese. Am I understanding correctly that the winning bid was federal cover? Reese said. Yes. Then he looked at me. Now, we placed the winning bid because we needed to see who showed up to collect. I stared at him. He pointed to Audrey's file. Your sister didn't just try to sell your building. She used a petition structure we've been investigating for bid rigging and fraudulent seizure diversion, which is why I'm going to ask this one more time. He turned back to Audrey. Who gave you the authority to sell property you did not own? Audrey opened her mouth. But before she could answer, another county clerk came hurrying out through the courthouse doors, carrying a printout and looking directly at Reese. Agent, she said out of breath, you need to see this. The original contact change on the parcel didn't come from a public portal submission. Reese took the paper, read 1 line, then lifted his eyes to Audrey. It came from an internal clerk override. Audrey did not answer him. For the first time in her life, my sister looked like someone who had run out of rooms she knew how to control. What internal clerk override? She said finally, too sharp, too fast. The county employee who had rushed outside was still breathing hard. She was young, red-faced, hair slipping out of a clip, and holding the printout like it had burned her fingers on the way down the steps. The parcel contact wasn't changed through the owner portal, she said. It was changed from inside the records console under supervisor credentials. Reese took the page from her and scanned it once. Then he turned it toward me. Parcel. Mine. Original mailing address. Mine. Override timestamp. 3 weeks earlier, 8:14 a.m. New legal notice address, Northridge P.O. Box. The request basis. Petitioner provided authority packet verified by internal review. Authorizing user M. Cutter. That name hit me in the chest hard enough to make me sway. Not because I knew 100 M. Cutters, because I knew exactly one. Mason Cutter, assistant clerk in the county tax office, and Audrey's ex-boyfriend. Of course. 2 years earlier, she had dragged him to my building's holiday open house in a navy coat, too expensive for county salary, and introduced him to everyone like she was showing off a future appointment, not a man. They broke up noisily 6 months later, but men like Mason never really left Audrey's orbit. She didn't let people go if they still had uses. Reese saw my face change. You know him? Yes, I said. He used to date my sister. That landed. Not loudly, but hard. The deputy nearest us shifted position. When the title rep looked like he wished the stone staircase would open and swallow him whole. Audrey folded her arms tighter. That proves nothing. No, Reese said. It proves where we look next. He signaled the county employee. Get me console access logs, document ingestion history, and every parcel touch under Cutter's credentials for the last 90 days. She nodded and hurried back inside. Audrey made a quick decision then, the kind people like her always make when facts start organizing themselves without permission. She pivoted from authority to performance. This is insane, she said, pitching her voice just high enough to sound wronged but not shrill. I stepped in because Nora was letting that building rot. Tenants were complaining. Bills were being ignored. I was trying to preserve value. I almost laughed in her face. Or preserve value? I said. You listed my occupied building for seizure sale. It was distressed. It was profitable. The title rep finally found a voice. Ms. Hale, were there actual delinquency certificates issued on the parcel? Reese answered before Audrey could. Good question. He held out a hand to me. Tax receipts. I gave him the folder. He flipped through the printed statements, checking county account numbers, payment confirmations, and posting dates. All current, he said. Then he looked at the title rep. So tell me how a current parcel lands on an auction calendar. The rep went pale. It shouldn't. Correct. Audrey cut in. Unless there were nuisance abatements or secondary liens. There weren't, I said. Reese checked the county summary sheet clipped inside my folder, then nodded once. There weren't. He turned to the deputy. I need no one leaving these steps until county council gets here. Audrey took one heel step back. I am not being held here like a criminal. The deputy's answer was simple. Then don't leave like one. That was when my phone buzzed. Lenora, my property manager. I answered immediately. Nora, she said without hello, I've got 2 tenants calling in a panic. Someone taped notices to the front glass saying, title transferred pending purchaser possession. Also, paper shuffling, there's a locksmith van outside. My entire body went cold. I looked at Reese. They sent a locksmith to my building. His head snapped up. Address? I gave it to him. He was already on his phone before I finished the street name. Unit on Mercer, he said the second someone answered. Get there now. Stop any lock change. Preserve posted notices. Photograph vehicles and IDs. Audrey spoke at once. That was standard post-sale securing? Reese stared at her. On a sale you had no authority to conduct. My sister's mouth tightened. There it was again. That small, ugly flicker she got when reality refused to bend just because she had started counting money early. 10 minutes later, county council arrived. Older woman. Hard face, flat shoes, expression of someone who had spent the day putting out fires caused by people with confidence and no ethics. Her name was Teresa Lowe. Reese brought her up to speed in under a minute. No drama, just facts. Forged authority packet, expired notary, Shell LLC, internal override, current taxes, cover bid by federal task force, possible employee collusion. When he finished, Teresa Lowe asked only one question. Was the deed ever transferred? The title rep answered. Not yet. Closing packet incomplete pending final release. She nodded once. Good. Then this never leaves the steps. Audrey stepped forward. You can't just void a completed public auction because my sister is emotional. Teresa turned to her slowly. This auction, she said, appears to have been initiated on a parcel that was not lawfully subject to sale. If that holds, it is not a valid public disposition. It is evidence. That shut Audrey up for almost 3 full seconds. A county investigator came out next with a laptop and portable printer. Reese, Teresa, the deputy, and the title rep all moved inside the side records office, and I followed because no one told me not to. Audrey tried to come too. Teresa blocked the doorway with one arm. Not you! Inside, the room smelled like paper dust and old coffee. One fluorescent light buzzed overhead. The investigator logged into the county console, pulled the parcel history, and expanded the override chain. Every touch lit up on screen. Initial internal change by Mason Cutter. Supporting authority packet uploaded 6 minutes later. Auction eligibility flag added the next morning. Expedited review approval 2 days after that. Then one more entry appeared at the bottom of the chain. Requester note attached by external filer. The investigator clicked it open. I felt my own breath stop. There, in plain text from Audrey's Shell LLC email, was the sentence that had moved my building one step closer to disappearing. Owner is unstable, unresponsive, and unable to manage high-value distressed asset. Please route all notices through authorized administrator to prevent delay. Unstable, unresponsive, the same trick. Different building. Reese read it once, then said quietly, she was laying narrative cover before anyone asked. Teresa Lowe looked at me. Have you ever been declared incompetent? Under guardianship? Under conservatorship? Anything of that kind? No. Have you ever authorized your sister to act for you in any real estate, tax, or management capacity? No. She nodded and turned back to the screen. The investigator clicked deeper into the document packet. The scanned affidavit opened, my fake signature, the expired notary. Then the last page loaded. A certification page signed by Mason Cutter himself. Internal reviewer. Identity verified. Authority accepted. Reese leaned in. "Saw her print that." The printer started spitting pages almost immediately. Outside the office, I could hear Audrey on the courthouse steps raising her voice for the first time that day, saying this was harassment, saying county officials were overreacting, saying I'd always been jealous of her because I never understood how to move quickly in business. No one inside reacted. The printer finished. Teresa picked up the certification page, stared at Mason Cutter's signature, and said, "Agent Reese, if Cutter signed off on a false authority packet tied to a federal cover bid, I need personnel locked down before he gets warned." Reese was already moving. Then his phone buzzed. He checked the screen and went still. "What?" I asked. He looked up at me. "The team at your building just called." My throat tightened. "And?" "They found the locksmith. The fake transfer notices," he paused, "and a moving crew with instructions to clear the upstairs records room before noon." We were back in motion within 30 seconds. Reese took the printed certification page, the fake authority packet, and the console log showing Mason Cutter's override, then handed half of it to Teresa Lowe and half to the deputy. "You lock down county access," he told Teresa. "No one touches Cutter's terminal, his email, or any parcel he reviewed in the last 90 days. Then he looked at me. "You're coming with me." Audrey heard that from the steps and immediately tried to follow. "No," Reese said without slowing down. "It's my family property. It's an active federal scene now." That stopped her for exactly one beat. And then she did the thing I had been waiting for all morning. She reached for her phone with the particular urgency people have when they are not texting a friend, but warning a partner. Reese saw it too. He pointed at the deputy. "Take the phone." Audrey jerked back. "Absolutely not." "You can hand it over now," the deputy said, "or I can document you trying to alert a subject." That landed. She froze, calculating, then slowly gave up the phone. And just like that, the sister, who had been smiling on the courthouse steps like my building was already money in her pocket, became what she really was, an access point. The ride to Mercer Street took 11 minutes. I spent all 11 staring at Reese's dashboard and trying not to imagine strangers carrying boxes out of the third-floor records room, not because the paperwork there was glamorous, but because it was the building's memory. Original tenant estoppels, rehab permits, contractor lien waivers, old environmental clearance, insurance riders, signed rent rolls, transfer tax records from when I bought it, the kinds of papers people only understood after they were gone. When we turned onto Mercer, I saw the moving truck first, white box truck, no company logo, rear door open, then the locksmith van, then my building, with 2 fake transfer notices taped to the front glass and one of my tenants standing on the sidewalk filming everything with her phone. A plainclothes agent was already there, one hand up, stopping 2 men in work boots from carrying another file bin out through the side entrance. Lenora came straight to my car before I was fully out. "They were in the records room," she said. "Not the rent office. Not the utility panel. Straight upstairs. They asked for archive cabinets by number." That hit hard. Not random looting. Targeted retrieval. Reese was already questioning the movers. One of them kept saying, "We were hired for a clean-out," while the other stared at the pavement and said nothing. "Who hired you?" Reese asked. The first man shrugged. "Dispatch." "Which company?" He named one I'd never heard of. Lenora spoke immediately. "That truck isn't from any company. I checked the plate when I called you." "Good. That was why I kept her." Reese walked to the rear of the truck and looked inside. 6 archive boxes. My boxes. 1 metal deed drawer from the upstairs file wall, and a smaller locked black case I had never seen before. He turned back to me. "Oh, is that yours?" "No." He had one of the agents photograph everything before anyone touched it. Meanwhile, Teresa called from county headquarters. Reese put her on speaker. "We froze Cutter's terminal," she said. "He's gone." "Gone how?" "Badge used at 8:07. No activity after 9. Supervisor says he stepped out before auction ended and never came back." Reese's expression didn't change, but the air around him did. That's the thing about competent people under pressure. They don't get louder. They get simpler. "Pull building access, parking exit, and outbound email from his workstation," he said, "and check whether he reviewed any Mercer Street records outside the override chain." "Already doing it," Teresa said. "No, you were right about one more thing." "What?" Cutter touched 3 of the other flagged parcels under separate reviewer notes. Same pattern. Owner unstable. Notices rerouted. Emergency administrator accepted. My stomach turned. This wasn't just Audrey freelancing a theft. It was a machine. A sloppy one, maybe, but a machine. One of the agents popped the lock on the black case. Inside was a portable scanner, fresh legal pads, blank transfer forms, notary embossing stickers, and a stack of partially completed affidavits. I stared at it. A fraud kit. Not metaphorically, literally. My sister had come after my building with a fraud kit and a moving crew. Lenora muttered, "That woman is sick." Reese crouched and lifted one of the blank forms by the corner. Then he found the page underneath it. A worksheet, handwritten. Parcel numbers in one column, owner names in another, target values, notes. Next to my address, Audrey had written, "Building sells clean if records removed before challenge." I felt the blood drain from my face. She hadn't just wanted the sale to happen fast. She wanted the paperwork that could unravel it gone before I could get there. Reese stood up with the sheet in his hand. "That's enough for intent." At that exact moment, one of the agents shouted from inside the building, "Agent Reese!" We all turned. He was standing at the top of the stairs to the records room, holding a phone wrapped in an evidence bag. "Found this behind cabinet 3, he said, still unlocked. Reese took it, glanced at the screen, and his jaw set. "What is it?" I asked. He showed me. Text thread. Audrey and Mason Cutter. Messages from that morning. Auction closes at 9:40, move crew at 10. Pull records first if Nora shows. Staller on title, use the unstable line again if needed. Again. The same word from the county note. The same word from the records office. The same word scammers use when they need institutions to trust their confidence more than your ownership. Reese scrolled once more, then stopped. At the bottom of the thread was a fresh, unread message from Audrey, sent just minutes earlier, right before the deputy took her phone on the courthouse steps. "Do not go home. They know about the override." No one spoke. Lenora looked from the phone to me and said, "She tried to warn him." Yes, and because she had tried to warn him, Reese now had conspiracy, document staging, fraudulent administrative filings, and active evidence removal all tied together in one thread. His phone rang. He answered, listened, then looked straight at me. "County parking camera caught Cutter leaving the garage 40 minutes ago," he said. "He wasn't alone." "With who?" Reese's expression went flat. "With your sister's lawyer from the auction title packet, and they've just pinged at a motel off Route 7. We got to the motel off Route 7 in under 15 minutes. It was the kind of place built for people who didn't want questions asked. 2 stories, exterior walkways, vending machine glowing by the office. Half the numbers on the sign burned out. Reese parked one lot over, killed the engine, and turned to me. "You stay in the car unless I say otherwise." "I'm not missing this." "You're not missing anything," he said. "Or you're just not stepping into an arrest scene because your sister decided your building was a liquidation event." That wording did something ugly and satisfying in my chest. Liquidation event. That was Audrey. Every relationship reduced to inventory the second she smelled leverage. 2 agents moved in from the far side of the lot. Another came up the back stairs. Reese watched his phone, tracking the motel Wi-Fi ping and the location pull from Mason Cutter's county-issued tablet, which apparently he was stupid enough to keep powered on. Room 16, curtains closed. One car outside, a silver sedan I recognized immediately. Audrey's. She had not stayed at the courthouse. She had gotten free long enough to run ahead. Reese saw my face. "That hers?" "Yes." He nodded once, then got out. The whole thing happened in less than a minute. Knock. Now no answer. Second knock. Louder. Reese announced federal law enforcement. Dead silence. Then movement inside. Fast, wrong, not the movement of innocent people going to a door, but of people choosing which thing to grab first. Reese looked at the agent by the railing and said, "Now." The door opened inward on the latch tool almost instantly. From where I was, I couldn't see much at first, just the angle of the room in the yellow motel light and one of the agents stepping hard to the right. Then I heard Audrey. Not polished, not composed, furious. "Don't touch that!" That was the first thing she shouted. Not "I want a lawyer," not "What is this?" Not "You're making a mistake, don't touch that, the agents did anyway." They came out one by one with exactly what Reese had expected. Mason Cutter, unpale and sweating through a dress shirt he probably thought still made him look official. The auction title lawyer, red-faced and already saying he had minimal involvement. And Audrey, coat open, hair half fallen, staring at me across the parking lot like I had done this to her. Then Reese emerged carrying a hard-sided document case. He set it on the hood of the sedan and opened it under the lot light. Inside were my building's missing originals, not copies, originals, tenant estoppels, rehab permits, deed chain abstracts, signed contractor waivers, rent certifications, lien releases, even the environmental clearance letter from when I bought the place. Everything Audrey had written records removed before challenge beside on her worksheet. There were also 2 fresh deeds. Both unsigned but prepared, one from county auction disposition into the federal cover entity Reese had used to bid, and a second one ready to move title out again into an LLC I had never heard of. A flip deed. They were going to move my building twice before anyone could breathe. Reese lifted the second deed by the corner. "Who owns Talon Brick Holdings?" No one answered. He looked at Mason. Mason looked at Audrey. That told me enough. The title lawyer tried first. This was precautionary drafting. Nothing had been recorded. "Precautionary?" Reese said. "On a parcel that was never lawfully auctionable?" Then he pulled one more sheet from the case. Wire instructions. Winning disbursement breakdown. My stomach turned. Audrey had already allocated the money, her share, Mason's consulting fee, title cure reserve, legal disbursement. And they carry costs, as if my building had been dead for hours and they were already dividing the organs. Reese handed the sheet to the other agent. Conspiracy just got easier. Audrey finally found her voice again. It was distressed. I actually laughed, right there in the parking lot. Tired, furious, almost shaking, but laughing. My occupied, cash-flowing building with current taxes and active permits was distressed? She looked straight at me. "You don't know how to move fast enough to hold real assets." That was Audrey to the end. Even cornered, she couldn't help confessing in the language she thought sounded like expertise. Reese closed the case. Then he said the sentence I had needed all day. "Mercer Street is frozen. The sale is void. Title stays with the lawful owner." Lawful owner. Me. Now the agents put Mason in one car and the title lawyer in another. Audrey was last. She didn't resist. She did something worse. She leaned toward me as they walked her past and said quietly, bitterly, like she still believed we were in a private fight she might win later, "You would have lost it eventually." I looked at her and said, "Maybe. But you still don't get to steal the ending." That was the last thing I said to my sister before they took her away. By the time I got back to Mercer Street, the fake transfer notices were down, the locksmith van was gone, and my tenant on the sidewalk had uploaded half the day to the internet, which turned out to be more useful than anyone expected. Between her video, the county logs, the text thread, the motel case, and the forged authority packet, the story had become too documented to smother. Lenora stood beside me in the lobby while Reese's team finished boxing the recovered records for chain of custody scan and return. "You okay?" she asked. I looked up at the ceiling my rehab loan had paid to save, then at the tenant mailboxes, then through the glass into the street-level retail unit that still smelled like espresso and paint from the new cafe build-out. "No," I said honestly, "but the building is." That night, Reese called once more before midnight. "County Council signed the voidance order," he said. "Cutter's override history is a mess. We found 3 more parcels, and your sister's phone gave us enough to map the whole thing." The whole thing? Fake distress narratives, rerouted notices, inside clerk overrides, cover petitions, rapid cleanouts, secondary transfer shells. He paused. Your building was supposed to be their cleanest flip. I stood in my own kitchen, the morning's cold coffee still dried on the counter from when this started, and let that sink in. My sister hadn't just tried to sell my building. She had chosen it because she thought family made it easier. She thought I'd freeze, miss the sale window, arrive late, cry, beg, get handled. Instead, the winning bidder flashed an FBI badge, and everything she built collapsed in public. Over the next few months, the case widened fast. Mason Cutter lost his county job before the criminal filings were even complete. The title lawyer tried to distance himself, but his minimal involvement turned out to include drafting transfer instruments for properties he knew were being pushed through on bad authority. No, Audrey faced the ugliest version of consequences for someone like her. Not just charges, but records. Searchable ones. Permanent ones. The kind that outlive charm. County Council voided the Mercer Street auction formally, restored every contact field on the parcel, and flagged my building so no internal override could touch it without senior review and direct owner confirmation. Reese's task force recovered the rest of my records and returned them in fresh evidence boxes with chain labels still attached. I kept one of those labels in my desk drawer for a while, just to remind myself how close the building had come to disappearing on paper before it disappeared in reality. As for Mercer Street, it stayed mine. The tenant stayed. The cafe opened. The upstairs records room got a new lock, a camera, and fireproof cabinets because once is enough to learn what predators go for first. And I stopped apologizing to myself for caring so much about paper. Paper is where they try to kill you when they can't do it in person. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments, what would you have done if your own sister secretly auctioned your building? Would you have pressed all the way to charges or taken the property back and walked away? And what hit you harder? The sold email, the moving crew, or the FBI badge on the courthouse steps? If you liked the story, leave a like, subscribe, and stay with me for the next one.